Our interview this morning is with James W. Gilley. Mr. Gilley was born in Lubbock, Texas in December of 1924. He served in the United States Army from July of 1944 through July of 1946. His highest rank attained was Corporal. This interview is conducted in Burleson, Texas on Friday, July the 13th, year 2012. My name is Dale Dexheimer. I'm not related to Mr. Gilley. Also in the room we have Don Gilley, Milton Gibson, and Gary Burton. Milton and Gary are videographers. This interview is conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress and also for Operation Remember, City of Burleson, Texas. And with that introduction, Mr. Gilley, you can tell us about your time in the U.S. Army, sir.
Okay, came to Burleson in 1941. I was here as a teenager, and I was 19 years old. I was drafted in 44 here in Burleson in the military, and I got a letter from a draft board that said, all your friends and neighbors have decided to put you in the military, in the Army. And I didn't know I had that many friends and neighbors, but anyway, I was drafted. So they sent me, I had to go to Fort Walters. I went to Dallas for the test, and then they sent me to Fort Walters for training. And I trained, I think it was 6 weeks. And then they sent me to California for some extra training, Fort Ord, California. And then from there, I went to Seattle, Washington, and stayed about a week, and they shipped me out on a Montrose troop ship. And we went to Honolulu. When I got to Honolulu, Hawaii, they assigned me to the 7th Infantry Division. And so they sent me to the Philippines. I was in the infantry in a demolition squad. They sent me to the Philippines with MacArthur when he went back. And I was in that battle there. And I got a citation from the Philippine government for helping out down there. And I was with the Philippine guerrillas over there in the infantry. And then when we got through with that campaign, then they said, well, we're going to Okinawa. We're going to make a beachhead and take that island. So I went, we was on a boat several days, a whole troop ship, LST with Amtrak's in it. So I hit in the first wave. They let me out and we blew out 3 pillboxes on the beach. And I had 2 or 3 satchel charges, and I blowed out 3 pillboxes there cut a 9-second fuse and took off. I was 19, just 6 foot tall and weighed 138 pounds. I could run pretty fast then. So I throwed them in on them Japanese, and I run and hit the dirt. That sailor that took me in there, I never will forget what he said, and he let me out. He said, boy, I'm glad I'm not going to stay here with you, Gilley. So he went back to the ship. He let me out up there. They sent him with me. And then the troops all landed. Then we went plumb across the island the first day. We didn't get very many casualties. And then we went, the Marines took the small end. There was 2 Marine divisions, and we took the 4 infantry divisions, took the big end. And then we went that way, and that's when we hit in some rough stuff over. I was with another guy named Wesley, and we was advancing over, and we got to the top of this hill and killed 2 or 3 guys that was with us, the Japanese, and the artilleryman looked down the hill and he said, man, there's 500 Japs coming up that hill. And Wesley said, dig a hole quick, Gilley. Dig a hole. And I ripped that shovel out and broke it first. Hit the dirt. So I started digging with my hands, and I pulled a big old rock up out of it. We got in that hole. He was shooting them Japs at machine gun, and I was crawling back, getting them more ammunition. They couldn't get by nobody, and they'd throw me the ammunition, and I'd go back and feed another belt through there while Wesley was shooting. finally shot all them Japs, and the artilleryman run off, said he was gonna call for artillery. So he called it and throwed it right on top of us too. Artillery killed a bunch of them Japanese. And when it was over with, that battle was over with, Wesley said, "You see that big old rock down there, bottom of that hill?" I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "You know, you pulled that up out of the ground and throwed it down that hill." I said, "I didn't think a man could lift that rock." I said, "Really?" I said, "I didn't even know I'd done that." I guess he's excited. So he said, "I threw that rock down that hill, them Japs." And I didn't, it's a big old rock. He said, I know my hands was kind of bleeding where I dug it with my hands. But anyway, we kept going, kept fighting, having all kinds of battles. So one day we was pinned down behind the jungles over there. So they wanted me and Sergeant Armstrong, this guy, Sergeant was with me, wanted us to go scout over on the next hill and see if they could set up heavy artillery over there, see where them Japanese were. So me and him went across there. That patio's about, it must have been a half a mile. We got to the top of this hill and we was laying up there looking. He said, "Do you see anything, Gilley, to the right?" And I said, "No." He said, "I don't see nothing." So he said, "I'm gonna motion for him to come on." So he got up and motioned for him to come on. And as soon as they started out of there, boy, them Japanese started shooting at them. And they run back in the jungle. And he said, "Where's that coming from?" I said, "Heck, I don't know." And it's in the valley there and it's echoing. And what it was, Japanese had a tunnel through that hill, machine gunned each end of that hill, and we couldn't see them. And they didn't fire at us because we was scouting. They didn't want to fire at us, I guess. So he said, "Let's run for it." And I said, "All you do, and they're going to shoot you in the back." I said, "I don't know where they're at." And he said, "Let's take off." I said, "We can't stay over here." And they started throwing mortars over there and blowing, sloughed the hill off, and we rolled down the bottom of the hill. Then we took off back up there and by the bottom of that hill, and he said, "Let's go for it." And he took off running. I said, "They're going to shoot you in the back." And he run. Oh, there's a pea patch over there, and they shot at him, and I thought they killed him, and he fell in that pea patch. I thought, "Oh, shoot, now what am I going to do? I'm over here by myself." And about that time, he jumped up and run again. He was just playing dead. They didn't hit him. And he run back in them jungles. So I thought, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I thought, well, I guess I'll do what they told me to do in basic training. If you move real slow, they can't pick you up unless you're moving fast, running. So I just got up, started walking real slow across there, turned my back to them. All the time I kept thinking, boy, they're going to shoot me in the back. And I kept walking real slow, and I walked all the way across there, and they never fired a shot at me. I got back in them jungles, and the guy said, "Golly, Gilley, it's one of them that killed you." He said, "How'd you do that?" And I said, "I just done what they told me in basic training. I just moved real slow. Thought they was so far away. I knew they was a long ways off, but I didn't know where they was at. And they didn't pick me up, I guess. And I walked all the way across, and they never fired a shot at me." And I was wondering how that happened. There was a lot of things happened. I was wondering how it happened. But another time, we was running from one hill to another, and one of my buddies, he was ahead of me. We were supposed to take off, and he run ahead of me, and they shot him and killed him. Well, he fell over in the ditch, and his boots, his feet were sticking up. So I was next, and I thought, man, they've killed him. And I run over there, and I don't know how come they do it, but I got to him, and I stopped and got down there to see if he was alive, see if I could help him. And I seen he was dead, and so I took him off again. You know, they never fired a shot at me. I never did understand that. But anyway, I went on across, and they didn't fire at me. And there's all kinds of things happening. We went on further. They started shelling us and shooting at us and everything. We was walking across there with them tanks. Oh, they started shooting at me, and I started running across there looking for a place to duck, a hole or something. I seen 2 dead horses out there the shells had killed, and they was lit side by side, and their feet sticking up. I just dove in between them 2 dead horses. And they was shooting at them horses, and they never hit me. And when they quit shooting, I jumped up out of them horses and took off. That saved me, them 2 dead horses. Oh, there's all kinds of things happened back then. And one time we was dug in up there on another hill, and we was gonna stay all night. At night we'd put hand grenades up, line them up on our foxhole, so if we heard anything we'd just throw a hand grenade so they couldn't tell where we was at. If we fired a rifle, they'd see where we was at. They didn't know where the hand grenades coming from if we threw that. So it's what we do at night, just line them up on our foxhole. We was in there one night by a rock wall. Something jumped in on us at night off that wall. Man, I come out of that hole, and old Wesley's in there, and I come out of there and grabbed a hand grenade. And I thought, well, I can't throw that hand grenade back there. Wesley's in there. And what it was is them guys started hollering, them other guys, and I said, something's in the hole. 3 goats jumped in the foxhole with us. And old Wesley said, I want to kill them damn goats. I said, no, don't start shooting, and they'll see where we're at. He was going to shoot them goats. Oh, that was kind of funny. And anyway, we dug in on another hill up there after that. So we was going to go back and get us a can of water behind the lines so we'd have some water during the night. So me and we was dug in pretty close together, all these foxholes. And Wesley and Myers, and me and Wesley is in one foxhole, and Myers and this other guy was in another one. I can't think his name. I knew what it was. But anyway, me and him went back to get water, and we went back there and got a can apiece. We was coming up the hill, and the Japanese started shelling us, and we fell down and spilled about half of it. Got back there, and that other guy's name was Smitty. Was with Myers. And we got back up there and got in the hole, and a shell come over there just before we got in there, our hole, and lit in their hole and blowed Myers away. And we just found a piece of his BAR. And he was a kind of a guy, he didn't stay in the foxhole much. He'd run around out there and act cut up, you know. And we was really shocked about that. That blowed him away. And we was advancing on another hill one time. There was a guy named Pete Casina. He cut our hair. He had some old hand clippers, and once in a while he'd cut our hair for us. And he was really a tough guy. He was really a good old guy. And I don't know where he was from, but that was his name, Pete Casina. And he was in front of me, and we was advancing. And he was just, about 10 foot in front of me, and a Jap shot him, blowed up a hand grenade he had strapped on his chest and killed him. And I hit the dirt, and Armstrong was behind me, and he hit the dirt, and they started shelling us. And I dove by an old tombstone. There's shrapnel bouncing off of that. And Armstrong, that sergeant, was behind me. He got hit in the back, and they took him out, took him to the hospital. So we kept on. We come to another big hill up there, and there's 3 big pillboxes up there. And they wanted me and Wesley to blow them pillboxes out. So we had some more satchel charges. So we started up there to do that. We just had 3 men in a hole that night. We just had them surrounded with 3 men in every foxhole. So we started up there. Just nearly got up there, and the Japs come from everywhere. I don't know where they all come from out of them jungles. Started shooting at us. And we done a little hand-to-hand combat, and they shot me twice in the leg. I was running, trying to get back, and they shot him twice and bayoneted him in the back twice. And some guys ran out there and got us. Then they throwed us in an little old pickup with the medics come up there and got us and took us behind the lines. We laid back there in the mud 3 days before they got us out of there. But we was going across there, and they was shooting. That guy driving that pickup, we was bouncing around in there, and they was shooting at us in that pickup. And we got away from there. That guy was really doing some driving, dodging around, trying to keep from getting shot. And I don't even know who that guy was. He was a medic. And so then they took us to I'd shove him over. He'd go to get on his back when they were bayoneted. He's bayoneted twice in his buttocks. And I'd shove him over and bleeding pretty bad. So me, him both. So we got back there, and the medics tended to us, and then they took us to Guam. to the Navy hospital. And then we got stayed there about a week or two and got a little better, and they flew us to Honolulu hospital. And we was there a good while in that hospital, and we finally got better. So I was laying up there in a sack in the hospital with some more guys. Captain come in there from the military police, and he said, "Say," said, "you soldiers, some of y'all got all these medals and stuff." Said, "We want you in the military police because all these military policemen we got don't have no medals. They ain't never been nowhere." He said, "You'll have to wear them." But I wouldn't wear mine. Sometimes they'd eat me out about it and want me to wear them medals. So I come over there. I was pretty slender, 6 foot tall. And the captain said, "Slim, do you think you'll ever get pretty big?" I said, "I don't know." I don't know. He said, "Well, we want you in the MPs." He said, "You want to be in a military policeman?" I said, "No, send me back to the Philippines." "No, we can't do that unless you re-enlist." I said, "Oh, I ain't going to re-enlist." So they put me in there, and I patrolled Waikiki Beach, and then I drove the wagon. I'd go haul them in. Them sailors come in and get drunk off. They get paid and get drunk off of them boats. Boy, we'd have to get a whole bunch of them. They'd tear the town up, and people would get mad. We'd have to haul them in. I had that wagon, driving that wagon to haul them in. One time I had about 8 sailors in there. Directly I started to leave, take them in. The MPs hollered at me and said, "Hey, wait a minute, we got one more guy here." So they come over there, and they had the MP wagon, SP wagons full. And so they come over, and I opened the gate, put that guy in there, and all them guys come out and just piled on top of me, all them sailors, knocked me down. I said, "Golly," we had to round them all, had to get a bunch of SPs and MPs round them all back up again. They just stomped. They just come out there and run over, knock me down. So we had a lot of fun experiences over at night in the military police. And a friend of mine is dead now, Jesse Kennard. He was with me over there in all them battles and stuff in the hospital. He died here not too long ago. Every time I'd talk, he'd call me on the phone once in a while and said, "You ready to go back over there, Jay?" And said, "The Battle of Honolulu." He never would talk about them others anymore. He'd always say, "The Battle of Honolulu." I said, "Yeah, no, I guess not." So that's about most of my experiences with several different things happened. I don't remember all of it.
You remember a lot. One of the things that strikes me is the number of names, the people that you remember.
Yeah, I
But
remember.
let me go back, Mr. Gilley. You were drafted and went to Camp Walters. What was
Yeah.
your basic like? How long were you there? Do you remember how long you were there?
Yeah, I think it's 6 weeks. They called it Hell's Bottom.
Was there a reason for that?
Well, we'd go down there in this flat they had down there on basic training. They would march about 20 miles down there, bivouac area. And we'd camp out down there, and we'd done all kinds of, we'd have to go around and talk to all these sergeants, and they'd tell us a bunch of stuff and different things. And so I was sitting there one time with a bunch of sergeants talking to us. We'd go from one sergeant to another, one tree to another. This old boy sitting there with me, his name was Eblum. And he's kind of crazy. He didn't care about nothing. He was trying to get out of the Army. So he'd sit there and go to sleep and do all kinds of stuff. One time we was out in the machine gun area, and he's supposed to fire a machine gun. He wanted me to give him the order, and I got up there and I gave him the firing order, and then he's supposed to give it to me, and I said, "Fire at will." And then I was supposed to fire the machine gun. He just got up there and looked and said, "Gilley, fire like hell." Boy, and they come eat him out about that, and got him. And old Eblum, we started back, and he was dragging that machine gun in the sand, had it by the barrel. They come up there and got him out of there and took him. They finally laid him out, turned him out, blue discharge. But I was sitting there with him one class, the sergeant was talking to us, and he said, that sergeant said, "Hey, Gilley, you know we had our names on our helmet liners." He said, "Punch that guy there." And so I reached over and punched him. "Evelyn," I said, "that sergeant's hollering at you." He just kind of raised up and looked a little bit, and that sergeant said, "Hey, boy," said, "pay attention to what we're telling you." He said, "If you don't, we're going to give you about a week's KP." And he said, "I don't give a damn. I've been on there already 2 weeks." And he said, "I don't care." And they finally throwed him out of the Army, give him a blue discharge.
You went to Walters, and I'm sure you spent some time on the firing range.
Yeah, I done a lot.
M1.
Yeah.
Had you
M1.
ever fired a gun before?
Oh yeah, shotguns and different things hunting. Yeah, I was an expert rifleman. I'd hit that bullseye all the time. I fired M1 rifle. Yeah, I think it's on them papers there or something about I was an expert or something.
And then they gave you training on what? A
Them-
Browning 30 caliber air cooled?
Yeah, machine gun, and then also Bangalore torpedoes. You blow up fences with that. There's long torpedoes. You put it connection together and run it up there and set it off and blow up barbed wire. And Bangalore torpedoes. And then we had bazooka. I knew how to fire bazookas and all. We had all that training. After we got through with all this training about firing weapons and all this kind of stuff, and then when I got to Honolulu, they sent me to a judo class. The first time, I forgot to tell you about that. They had a guy teaching us judo. So he was Japanese, American Japanese. He taught us that judo before we went to the front lines. And first day he taught us how to fall. The first day he throwed us on a mat out there and broke one of them guys' arms, teaching us how to fall. Said that's the first thing you need to learn. You have to holler when you hit. Takes the pressure off your body when you hit the ground. And that's why they holler when you throw them. And so when we left Walters, though, they sent us to Fort Ord for another little extra training. And what that was, we had to crawl under barbed wire for a long distance with a full field pack and everything on our back. It's 60 pounds. We had to crawl under this barbed wire, and they fired a machine gun right over us and get us used to that. And every once in a while they'd have a charge set out there, and they'd set it off and blow it up. And so you get used to artillery and stuff. So we had to go through that training before they sent us to Seattle.
Was the training, was it similar to what you found when you actually got to the Philippines and those islands?
Well, not exactly. It's pretty close. But there's many odd things happen. What we done a lot of times over there, when them battle wagons would shell the land over there, and they'd blow a hole about big as this room nearly. Be watered, some of them. And we'd run, when we was in battle, we'd run, jump down the edge of them holes where them shells had blowed. We didn't have to dig no foxholes much, except at night. When you'd advance, we'd jump down the edge of them. Just looked like big old stock tanks really out there where them big shells hit the dirt. We'd run, jump down in the edge of them, you know, when we're advancing, if they're shooting at us. Get down the edge of them. There's a lot of funny things happen every once in a while. I was with old Armstrong one time. We was advancing when that Peak Casino got killed. That guy I was telling you about in front of me. Me and him jumped behind a big old rock. And we was behind this rock, and old Armstrong, there's a big old tree there, and he just looked up there like that and shot. Jap sniper sitting up there. I didn't even see him. He shot him out of that tree right over us, filled that down there by us. I said, golly, I didn't know that chap was sitting up there. And he was waiting for us to go by, and he was going to shoot us in the back, I guess. But old Armstrong, he'd been in about 4 battles, and he's pretty sharp. Old Sergeant Armstrong.
You've mentioned a number of people, Mr. Gilley: Wesley, Myers, Smitty, Armstrong, Peak Casino, Jesse Kennard. Were these guys, did y'all go through basic together?
Just me and Jesse Kennard.
And then you went to the West Coast and to the Pacific all together?
Yeah, we went. We didn't. Those other guys, I didn't see them until we went to the Philippines from Honolulu. But me and Jesse Kennard, he was with the Kennard Brothers Quartet in Fort Worth. They sang religious songs, him and his brothers. And me and Jesse was the only one that took basic together, was in everything, every battle together, in hospital together and everything, MPs together. Except he rode a motorcycle, and I drove the wagon. He rode a motorcycle. We stayed together the whole time. But he died about, 2 or 3 years ago. He called me and he said, I thought I'd call over JW. He said, I was sitting here drinking a beer. He lived over in Richland Hills. And I thought I'd call you and take you out to eat next time I come down that way. So we'll go down there and eat at that place on the side of Burleson. I said, I know them people down there. He said, I got to thinking about you and what you told that captain that time to send you back to the Philippines. You didn't want to be an MP. He said, I still remember that. He said, I'll be checking with you. And wasn't long after that, well, he'd passed away, and I didn't even know it. My sister-in-law told me he passed away. Sent me an article. I got it right in here. I think I got an article in there. Named Jesse Kennard.
You mentioned foxholes a couple times, James. You use the shell holes as foxholes protection.
No, most of the time we dig our own foxhole at night.
And that's, you had, at one point you said you had 3 guys in a foxhole.
Yeah, well, we dig.
How big a hole was that?
Wasn't very big. It's probably about, maybe 4 or 5 foot deep. Sometimes it'd rain, and we'd be setting the water up to our neck. We'd have to stack rocks and logs around at night to keep from getting shot in the head, because we couldn't have that rain. We'd sit in the rain all night, and our teeth would be going. We had on the same clothes when we left the Philippines. We just had on fatigues. We didn't have a coat or nothing.
Did you have summer uniforms when they sent you to the Philippines? Did you have summer uniforms?
Yeah. But at night, it'd be hot in the daytime. At night, though, that cold air would blow off the ocean, and you'd be wet sitting in them foxholes. That rain, and boy, you'd get cold. Your old teeth would be a popping.
This foxhole that you dug, whether it was 2 guys or 3 guys, y'all were pretty much all jammed in there.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to dig a foxhole like that?
Well, a lot of times it wouldn't take very long. We'd just pick up a shovel. I tore my shovel up, but I got another one. There's dead guys everywhere, And you just pick up another rifle or whatever you needed. It's everywhere. And it wouldn't take you very long. We'd stop, if we was advancing, we'd stop just before dark and dig us a hole and get in it and stay all night in that foxhole. And it wouldn't take very long. A couple of guys would be digging on it. And sometimes you'd find some already dug, the Japanese had dug. But they was kind of small, and we couldn't get in there very easy. They'd dig a little hole and just dig it back like a cave, so the overhead artillery wouldn't hit them. And they'd kind of just be a little small hole. We couldn't hardly get in there. But most of them Japanese are a little short.
You bring back any Japanese souvenirs from the war?
I brought back one bullet, 25 caliber that I took off of one of them dead Japs. And then I've got you see that RAF thing? That's an RAF pilot from England. And he gave me that when we got out of the battles and all. He said, hey, soldier, we was over in Honolulu. He said, would you give me some of them cross rifles off your uniform, and I'll give you this off my hat. And I said, yeah. So I gave him cross rifle. He gave me that. I don't know whatever. I hadn't heard no more from him. I don't know whatever happened to him. He was a fighter pilot.
Let me back up. You had a fair amount of time in combat, in the field. What did you eat when you were in the field like that, James?
Well, most of the time, they told us to quit that, but we didn't. We'd go through a garden and we'd pull up Japanese stuff and eat it. And they'd drop us rations once in a while, but we didn't get a whole lot. They'd fly over and throw us out some rations. And we could go get 10 and 1 and then some K rations, different rations.
You didn't have field kitchens or stuff like that?
No, not over there in combat.
Whatever you carried on your back is what you...
Yeah. Yeah. What you carried with you, that's it. We used our helmet for everything. In the foxhole at night, we used it for the bathroom, throw it out, and then we'd use it to wash in and everything else.
Make do.
We used that helmet for everything.
You said somewhere early when you went to the Philippines, you worked with the guerrillas, Philippine guerrillas?
Philippine guerrillas, yeah, fighting. Yeah, there's one guy used to go with me, one of them Philippine guerrillas. He made me a knife one time and a scabbard and a belt and colored them. It was real fancy, real nice. He made that for me. And I had that when I was going to Okinawa and we got in a storm over there, and I had it on a ship hanging up there and tore part of the boat up and everything, and I lost it. I had it hanging up on the top deck, and I lost it. I hated it. That Philippine.
Were they pretty tough folks?
Yeah, yeah, they were. They was tough fighters. Most of them carried a big machete too. Sometimes they'd get mad at one another and fight with a machete. It's crazy. Sitting there, me and him was always throwing knives at trees, see who could. I'd throw a bayonet and he'd throw that knife, and we'd see if we could stick it up in a tree or something. See who could do the best. He's pretty good. He stayed with me all the time. He'd throw me coconuts and stuff. He'd climb up them coconut trees. And he was really good. One time, after it was secured, well, we had 5 men tents. And we was in them tents. How them Filipinos fight them chickens all the time. And my dad did too, but I didn't then. And I was laying there on a cot and everybody's gone but me, and I woke up and there's a rooster tied to my cot, fighting rooster. And there's 2 Filipinos sitting there with a rooster in their arm, with gags on. I said, fight, fight. They kept pointing at that rooster, and I looked down there and I said, hey, I don't know, no, it ain't mine. I don't know whose it is. They tied it to my bunk. And they sat there for a long time. They finally left. They thought that was my chicken. I don't know which one of them guys had it. They tied it to my bunk because I was laying there and they was afraid it'd turn over theirs, I guess.
What'd you do after the war, James?
Well, when I first got back, I worked with Homer Bransom. He was old banker Bransom's uncle, I think, or cousin or something. His name was Homer. We used to work for Setting Butane. Me and him would dig these butane tanks and ditches all over Burleson and everything together. We worked together. And then we done that, and then I finally went to work for soil conservation. They called me, and I worked for them. I worked for FAA a while, but I worked for soil conservation for about 25, 30 years. Retired with soil conservation. Then I retired with them, and I worked for the Burleson School District, maintenance, over here. And I done all their painting and all this stuff, textoning. I worked for them, retired again, so I retired with the Burleson School District the last time I retired. So
You talk about where you worked in retirement. You remember how much money you got paid when you were in the Army, when you were in, say, the Philippines, in combat?
I think it's about 75 cents an hour, I think. Yeah. Best I remember, wasn't much. Wasn't very much. It may be on some of them papers there. I know my mustering out pay, I was mustered out San Antonio, Fort Sam Houston, and I know it wasn't much. It's on them papers there somewhere, very little. I had to get a traveling bureau to bring me home from San Antonio, 'cause it was,
Well, in 2 years, you certainly did a lot of things, saw a lot of combat, saw a lot of the world.
yeah. Yeah, they used to call that division I was in the Sightseeing 7th, 'cause they started at At-2. Some of them guys I was with had been in battle at At-2 on down.
In Alaska.
Yeah, they'd been in there. Smitty, and his feet was bad because they'd been frozen. He was in At-2. Some of them guys had been in 4 or 5, 3 or 4 battles that I was with. So had Pete Casino, he got killed over there, Okinawa.
Mr. Gilley, we appreciate you taking the time to come visit this morning and do the interview. We appreciate your time in the service, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while. Seems like a nightmare now.